Hey everyone, welcome back to the Coding Guide. In today's video, we'll create this hacker theme login form. This project will involve using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to craft a visually striking login interface. Let's get started. First, create 3 files, one for HTML, one for CSS, and one for JavaScript. Sorry, I typed it wrong. Let me fix this. Now, in the HTML file, first use a boilerplate to get some basic code, and give it any title you want. After that, link your CSS file and JavaScript file to the HTML page to make it functional. The first element I'll add is a canvas with the ID matrix. This canvas will serve as our animated background. Below that, I'll create a section containing a div with the class signin. Within this div, I'll add another div with the class content. Inside this div, we have to make a header using an h2 tag for the title sign in. Following that, I'll set up a form structure. I'll create a div with the class form to contain our input fields. Now, let's add the input fields. The first will be for the username. So I'll create a div with the class input box. Inside, I'll add an input element of type text with the required attribute. I'll also add a label using an I tag with the text username to act as a placeholder. I'll repeat this process for the password field. So, create another input box div with an input of type password and a label password. Next, add some links for forgot password and sign up. To do that, create a div with the class links and add 2 tags for these links. Finally, add a submit button. For this, you have to create another input box div with an input of type submit and the value login. And that's it for the HTML structure. Let's see the output. Oh, there is something wrong with this. Oh, I found it. All the other elements should lie below the canvas, not inside it. Here we are. That's working. Now that we have our HTML in place, let's move on to styling with CSS. First, give a margin and padding of 0, and set the box sizing to the universal selector. Next, style the body to use Flexbox for centering the content both vertically and horizontally. Also, set a black background and hide any overflow to prevent scrolling. Next, target the canvas element to make it cover the entire viewport by setting its position to fixed and ensuring it stretches to 100% width and height. The z-index allows the login form to remain below the canvas using a value of 1. Now, target the section element to fill the entire viewport and center its contents. Set its position to absolute and height and width to 100. And to center it, use Flexbox to achieve this effortlessly. You can use the display property, justify content property, and align items property to make it happen. Next, style the sign-in class, which is the container for the login form. Set its position to relative to create a stacking context. Use a width of 400 px to give it a defined size. The background should be semi-transparent. allowing some of the canvas to be visible behind it. So, use the alpha value in RGB to make it transparent. Add padding of 40 pixels for spacing inside the container, border radius of 4 pixels for rounded corners, and box shadow to add depth and make it visually appealing. Then, style the inner content of the sign-in class. Set display, flex and flex direction, column to stack the elements vertically. Add a gap of 40 pixels to create space between the header and the form elements, enhancing the overall look. Now, focus on the header inside the content. Set its font size to 2em to make it larger and more prominent. Use a color for a bright green effect that stands out against the dark background. The text transform. Uppercase property will make the text bold and enhance its visibility. Next, style the form itself. Set it up with display flex and flex direction column to stack the input fields vertically. Add a gap of 25 pixels to create space between each input field and ensure the layout feels organized. After that, style the input boxes. Set their position to relative, allowing for absolute positioning of child elements. Ensure they take up the full width of their container with width. 100% for consistency across all input fields. Now, focus on the actual input fields. Set their background color to number 3333 for a dark theme with no border or outline to create a sleek appearance. Use padding of 25px, 10px, 7.5px to provide space within the input fields and set the text color to white for bright contrast. Set font weight to 500 and font size to 1em for readability. Next, style the label inside the input boxes. Set its position to absolute, placing it on the left side with padding for spacing. Use a color of Daud Chahardi TKE to give it a faded appearance initially. The transition, 0.5's property, allows for a smooth movement effect when the label transitions. Let's add the animation to this label. Define styles for the labels when the input fields are focused or valid. Use the adjacent sibling selector to target the label and apply a transformation to move it up by 7.5px and reduce its font size to 0.8em. This effect enhances user experience by clearly indicating which field is active. The font size can be changed like this, and you can see the preview in the output. The transition is a little slow, so let's reduce the timer a bit. That's nice. Now, style the links in the links class. First of all, set the display to flex and use justify content. Space between to position the links on opposite sides of the container. This layout is clean and intuitive for users. Next, style the links to differentiate them visually. Set the color of the primary link to white for visibility. And for the sign-up link, use green color with a font weight of 600 to make it stand out and encourage user interaction. Finally, let's style the Submit button. Set its padding to 10 pixels for comfort, with a bright green background color to catch the user's attention. Use white text, set the font weight to 600, and increase the font size to 1.35 em to create an inviting call to action. The cursor pointer property indicates interactivity for the button. And for a little bit of responsiveness, use a media query and the max width property. After that, set the width of the sign-in class to 90%, so it looks good on both mobile and desktop views. You can see the result on the right side. And the form is ready. Only animation is left to be added. It's time to add the falling matrix effect using JavaScript. Let's go to the JavaScript file. First, select the canvas using document.getElementById. I think I wrote class instead of ID in the HTML. Let's fix this. And get its 2D context with getContext method. This context allows us to draw shapes and text on the canvas. Next, set the canvas size to match the window dimensions to ensure the canvas covers the entire screen. This will create a seamless background effect. This can be achieved like this. After that, define the characters that will fall down the screen. Create a string variable called matrix chars, containing a mix of numbers, uppercase and lowercase letters, and special characters. This variety adds visual interest to the matrix effect. I have already written this, so I'll just copy and paste it. Now, set a font size variable to 16, which will determine the size of the characters drawn on the canvas. Calculate the number of columns that will fit across the canvas width by dividing the canvas. Width by font size. Store this value in a variable called columns. This will help us determine how many characters will be falling at once. Next, create an array called drops to store the vertical positions of each character drop. Use array.from method to initialize this array with a value of 1 for each column. This means all characters will start falling from the top. Now, define the draw function, which will be called repeatedly to create the animation. First, fill the entire canvas with a translucent black rectangle by setting context's fillStyle method to black with alpha value and call fillRect method. This creates the trailing effect as the characters fall. Next, set the text color to green using Context Fill Style method. And define the font style. Loop through each column using a for loop. For each column, randomly select a character from the matrix chars string using the math.random method, multiply it by the matrix length, and use the floor method to get the absolute value. Store it in a variable called text. Calculate the x and y coordinates for drawing the character. The x-coordinate is determined by multiplying the current column index, I, by font size, while the y-coordinate is obtained by multiplying the current value of drops by font size. This positions each character correctly on the canvas. Now, use ctx.fillText method to draw the character at the calculated coordinates. This will render the character onto the canvas. Next, include logic to reset the drop positions randomly. If the y-coordinate exceeds the canvas height, with a chance of 2.5% random value is greater than 0.975, reset the drop position by setting drops I equals to 0. This ensures that characters start falling from the top again after reaching the bottom. After that, increment the y-coordinate for each drop by calling drops I++. This allows each character to fall down the screen continuously. To create the animation effect, use setInterval method to call the draw function every 50 milliseconds. This creates a smooth falling effect for the characters. You can see the animation in the output. Almost completed, but we need to set it so that when the user resizes the window, the animation restarts with the current height and width of the window. Add an event listener for the window resize event. This will adjust the canvas size dynamically when the window is resized. Inside the event listener, reset the canvas width and height. Additionally, fill the drops array with 1 to reset the drop positions for the new canvas size. You can see it is working. Now that the JavaScript functionality is in place, we have a fully animated matrix effect behind our login form. I hope you enjoyed following along with this tutorial and found it helpful. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more coding tutorials. If you have any questions or suggestions for future videos, please leave them in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and happy coding!